Good evening, everyone.
Thank you all for being here this evening. And at this time, the school board will begin its public portion of the meeting. We just finished up with closed session a short time ago. So we begin our public portion of the meeting. And as always, we go to general matters, item number 3. And we go to item 3.01. We start with land acknowledgement and mission statement. So I'll have the vice president do the land acknowledgement for us this evening. Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. We acknowledge that the Franklin-McKinley School District and our schools are located in the Moekba Ohlone Nation, the sovereign nation and original people of the skies, land, and waters where we learn and work. The Moekba Ohlone people are the stewards of these lands and of the teaching and learning that comes from and responds to the needs of the land and people who share it. May our daily lives and work, learning, teaching, and community engagement support the evolving vision of the Moekba Ohlone for their community and these lands.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. And now I will go ahead and follow up with our mission statement. The Franklin-McKinley School District will ensure all 8th grade student graduates have the skills and knowledge to be ready for a college preparatory curriculum in high school. They all will have the ability to pursue a program preparing them for university and or careers and lifelong learning. And with that, we go to item 3.02 on our agenda, which is our flag salute. We're very privileged and honored to have Franklin School lead us in the flag salute. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Franklin School. Thank you very much for being here, students. And
ladies and gentlemen, will you please stand and remove your hats for the presentation of the colors? Color guard, advance. Ladies and gentlemen, will you? Color guard, advance. Please join me the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Prepare to post the colors. Post colors. Color guard, dismiss. My name is Austin Mehta. I'm in 6th grade. I'm here with my mom.
My name is Ashton Lee, 6th grade, and I'm here with my mom.
My name is Camila Herrera. I'm in 6th grade, and I'm here with my dad.
My name is Trini Ha, and I'm in 6th grade, and I'm here with my mom.
I'm here.
You may be seated.
Before they rush off to do their homework, I know that's where they're going. Let's give them one more round of applause, and Principal Kovac too, for bringing them. At this time, we go on to item 3.03 to approve or disapprove additions to the agenda. So board members, let me know if there's anything that you want to change here on 3.03. If not, we'll go to item 3.04 to approve, disapprove order of the agenda. And again, if none, then we'll go to 3.05, report of action taken in closed session. And we turn it over to our superintendent to report that out. Superintendent.
Yes, thank you. The board unanimously approved the closed session minutes for May 13th, 2025. There's no other action to report.
Thank you, Superintendent. Now we go to item number 4, oral communications. Members of the public may address the board on any issue within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board or agenda items. Members of the public may also address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items. In accordance with Board Bylaws 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. The board president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public comment, depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. No action can be taken on any agenda items at this time. Questions may be referred to the administration or put on a future agenda. And with that, we go to item 4.01, which deals with oral communications. And we have a couple of individuals addressing us on 4.01. So let's go ahead and have Minji Bordin come up. Minji, if you can come up. Thank you.
Hello. As promised, the Trump administration has launched several investigations into school districts that it believes have violated Title IX and other federal policy. The Department of Education is featuring the enforcement actions prominently on its website, and superintendents and board trustees are advised to understand how to avoid such conflicts. The Education Department's Student Privacy Policy Office launched an investigation into the California Department of Education amid allegations that state law prohibits school personnel from disclosing a child's gender identity to parents. Under the Family Education Rights Privacy Act, parents have the right to access to their children's education records, request record corrections or amendments. The controlled disclosure of personally identifiable information in education record. California Assembly Bill 1955, which was signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom and took effect on January 1st, directly violates Family Education Rights Privacy Act, according to the Education Department. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon said, "It is not only immoral, but also potentially in contradiction with federal law for California schools to hide crucial information about the students' well-being from the parents and guardians," unquote. While applauding the federal investigation, California parents and school board trustees still needs to keep a watchful eye on their own school district's DEI, LGBTQ, and communism indoctrination agenda against the federal policies, because no one will come to the rescue of the public school children, including President Trump, without parents and the trustees' determination to fight. Have you heard of these sayings from ancient book? Be alert and have a sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for innocent children to devour. I hope all the board members and the school staff are aware of this spiritual warfare against children in America and work with parents and the federal laws to protect the innocent children under your watch. When it comes to vulnerable children, left or right political virtual signaling do not apply, but to protect their vulnerability. Your next resolution should be denouncing AB 1955 to get you out of the trouble of inviting federal investigation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we have Dr. Bodine. If you can come up.
Good evening, Board. I'm going to share with you a secret sauce for running a successful school district. So let's look at a comparison, the Franklin-McKinley School District and Los Gatos Union School Districts. Both are K through 8 districts, only 12 miles apart. Los Gatos Union has 2,673 students. FMSD has 5,766. The student-teacher ratio is 20-1 in both of them. Los Gatos Union achieves 75% proficiency in math. FMSD only 37% proficiency, half as much. Los Gatos Union achieves 72% proficiency in math. FMSD only 29%. That's a 43% difference in math. The FMSD school board has politically motivated virtue signaling resolutions in most months, such as today. So we can all be impressed that you care about how politically aware and leftist you are. The Los Gatos Union School Board went an entire year with no political resolutions at all. Nothing that touched on politics. They just focused on running a good school. They didn't worry about political virtue signaling. Also, the Los Gatos Union does not fly any other flags, not even the LGBTQ flag. They only fly the US and California flags on their flagpole. Now, I know you were all thinking, but they're a rich district. However, the Los Gatos Union school budget for 23-24 was $55.7 million for per pupil spending of $20,838 per student. FMSD in 23-24, the budget expenditure was $133.75 million per pupil for spending of $23,197. So FMSD spends $2,359 more dollars per student than Los Gatos Union. The difference between the two school districts is not money, but the expectations of the students. I know that the FMSD students here in the FMSD students are just as smart as those in Los Gatos Union, but the parents there would not put up with the poor failing results seen in FMSD. Even if the parents here don't demand better educational results, the Board of Trustees is responsible for educating the students here very well. But however, you're failing almost two-thirds of your students. If you would have the same high expectations that are held in Los Gatos Union, I'm sure that many of the students would rise to the challenge and succeed. Do not let our students down by letting them slide by with a substandard education. Hold them and yourselves accountable. And I'd also like to make a comment to Trustee Rudy. You might not have implicit bias, but you certainly have explicit bias by calling people racist or merely advocating obeying the law, as you say we all should. Thank you.
And those are the only speakers that we had on this particular item. So right now we go to item 5.5 recognitions, and we're going to have two recognitions. We're going to have the 5.01, the Global Learners Student Recognition, and so we're also going to have 5.02, the Employee Spirit Award. So I'll turn that over to the superintendent this time.
Yes, this is always a special board meeting when we come together as a school district community to recognize both students and staff for the incredible work that they do every single day in our schools. And so today we're going to start with the global learners, but we're going to do it in reverse alphabetical order. So make sure that you're paying attention to when your school is coming up. We're going to start from the bottom up today. See how many people are paying attention. And then after that, we will recognize our staff that have been nominated for exemplifying our core values of student focus, partnership, integrity, respect, innovation, and teamwork. So again, this is a special night where we can recognize both student and staff. Parents that are here, congratulations on your support of your children. And this is why they're being recognized as well. So congratulations to everybody. And I will be up at the podium. Board members will be up here and we'll start. Here. All right, we're going to start off with Windmill Springs, Chow Dong. Student has all grown up. From Silverdale, Brianna Gonzalez Lopez. From Stonegate, Casey Lim. From Shirakawa, Logan Ruiz. From Santee, Ariana Mendez Saucedo. From Ramblewood, Kendra Fajardo Aguilar. From Meadows, Ashley Camacho Munoz. From McKinley, Hazel Herrera. From Los Árboles, Bill Gia Duong. Fan club here. From Kennedy, Jasmine Rodriguez. From Hellier, Nina Dionela. From Franklin, April Anguiano Solorio. From Captain Jason Dahl, Vivian Liu. From Daniel Larone, Jade Paz. From College Connection Academy, Francesca Acevedo Garcia. And last but not least, from Bridges Academy, on to in. All right, let's give all our global learners a big round of applause. Congratulations. And now for our staff. Under the core value of student focus, Kristen Kohler from Windmill Springs. And under the core value of partnership, Ana Castro Valadez from Kennedy. Under the core value of integrity, Stephanie Navarro from Los Árboles. Under the core value of respect, Jennifer Morfin from Santee. Under the core value of innovation, Cynthia Barrera from Franklin. And under the core value of teamwork, Fong Lee from Captain Jason Dahl. So let's give all our staff and students another round of applause. Congratulations to everybody. So we're gonna take a, there's coffee and cake in the lobby, 5-minute break.
the world of my coffee. Do. Okay, at this time, we're going to go ahead and resume our meeting. And we go to item number 6, information, discussion, or action items. With that, we go to item 6.01, the 2024-25 third interim report fiscal year. Jason, thank you very much.
Good evening, board members. So tonight I'm having the pleasure of providing you the third interim report, as well as a little update on the May revise from the governor. But I just wanted to say, in the 10+ years that I've been doing this as a superintendent or a CFO at another school district, this is the first time I've ever had to do a third interim. And you want to ask the question, why are we doing a third interim? So whenever a school district actually puts forth a second interim, are either qualified or negative, the Ed Code requires that a school district put together a third interim for the school board to approve. And the third interim is based on actuals as of April 30th. Assumption based on that. In this case, so since I have the pleasure of talking a little bit about the May revise before going into the numbers, I just wanted to provide some themes, some points of information that I took from a 4-hour presentation from School Services of California, as well as some additional feedback from the County Office of Education. And currently, there's a lot of uncertainty as it relates to the governor's budget fiscal year 25-26. A lot of outside pressure from Prop 98. We have fires in Southern California. That's going to put additional pressure on the state's budget. We also have rising costs related to Medi-Cal and Medicare. We also have some things that are related to tariffs having an impact on the state of California, as well as a proposed budget from our president that may also impact within the state of California. So there's a lot of uncertainty. These are not my words, but these are the words that we're seeing from FCMAT, School Services of California, also from the county. Going on with themes related to the May revise. Obviously, we have a lot of economic uncertainty as with tariffs, impact the economy. California, 4th largest economy in the world. But there's also some pressure from federal policy. I have a slide later on that talks about some of the proposed budget items from the president and federal government that could impact our district, take away funding that could be crucial to us. On top of that, the governor wants to make sure he never goes through a year in which he appropriates more than he could to school districts. And based on the new law, he has the ability to actually portion less than he for. This year, he's reducing his apportionment for school districts by $1.3 billion. On top of that, the forecast that's coming from Sacramento is looking at lower revenue compared to the January proposal, as well as increased cost of healthcare. So what is the governor's going to do? Has less money, more expenditure. Takes into his bag of tricks, looks at things, pearls. Hey, I know I owe you $100 month of June, for that month, so I can help balance my budget, going to reductions and funding for schools as well as outside of Prop 98, and borrow funds. We are insulated from many of these problems, but we're not unscathed. So future slides will show you what has decreased since the January proposal. But we're not alone in this. Everyone's feeling the crunch. Everyone is feeling declining enrollment. 44 of the counties within the state of California, 44 out of the 58, are experiencing declining enrollment. This should be no surprise to the board, as well as various stakeholders, school budgets. In this particular presentation, we're looking at projections for 24-25 all the way out to 33-34. And of the 6 school counties that are presented here, 5 of them are declining. Of course, one of them is Santa Clara. LA has the biggest decline period of time. But we also have Placerville, one outlier, growing considerably. There are 14 counties that are growing, but the growth is pretty small. We're projecting 14,000 students for this period of time for 14 different counties. You divide that amongst all the different schools, districts within those counties, and it's pretty small enrollment growth. And why is enrollment growth important? So if you look at our local control funding formula, the major funding source for school districts, it's based on the assumptions of enrollment. The more students you have, the higher your average daily attendance is going to be, ADA, which means the more money you can bring in school district. But when you have declining enrollment, continued declining enrollment, that revenue source is in danger. As I mentioned before, there are outside pressures for the state of California's budget. Notably, here on this slide, there is an executive order from the president to actually eliminate Title III funding and migrant education funding in school districts. Thankfully, Title I and special education funding sources are safe. Those are not going away based on the current proposal of the president. But when you eliminate Title III, look at our particular budget, it's smaller than LCFF, that's true, but it's still $320,000 projected in. Title III is a program that provides additional supports and services to English learners in school districts. They can become English proficient, as well as achieve great results. What I wanted to do on this particular slide is just highlight some of the key assumptions that have gone down since the January proposal. I'm sure that you guys have heard me say this many, many times before, but LCFF, being the biggest funding source for our school district, is based on a couple of different components. Average daily attendance, ADA is one of them. The other one is COLA. When COLA goes up, that's positive news for a school district. COLA goes down, negative news. We're in a situation, though, in which we have continued declining enrollment. So even a positive number, COLA, in future years, still means that you're going to have less money, have significant. And I'll show another slide in the future that talks about the impact to our enrollment. But as you can see here, for all the years presented, 25, 26, all the way out to 28, 29, COLA has decreased. Another bit of information I'd like to point out that when you look at COLA, some people may want to look at COLA and say, well, you got 2.3% in COLA. That means you've got 2.3% more in money. That is not the case for our district when you look at future years in 26, 27, down to 28, 29. Again, slide that breaks that out for us. I've already talked about the executive orders and the impact of Title III. Another piece of information that has declined since the January proposal is the TK add-on. For those of you that are not sure what TK add-on represents, it is the state's initiative to reduce the staffing ratio of 24 to 2 adults, one being the teacher, in TK rooms down to 20 to 2 adults, one being in the. At January, that funding source was $6,404 per student. It is now down to $5,545 as the May revise, a significant decline. There's lots of concern on whether this number is going to go down further. On top of that, I've already talked about the minimum guarantee and how the governor is planning to under apportion the minimum guarantee for school districts. Another piece of information that was negative as of the May revise was the rainy day fund. There's a specific reserve in the rainy day fund that helps districts survive down years. Economy goes down, they dip into the reserve to help keep districts whole. That that rainy day fund for fiscal year 25-26 will be fully depleted fiscal year 25-26. So the question is, what do you do if the economy takes a downturn after that? How do you balance your budget? On top of that, one-time funds are going down, personal income tax is going down, corporate tax is going down, and sales and use tax is going down. Why are those important? Because those are the funding stream for educational. The one thing that has gone up, which we don't want to see go up, is the maintenance factor. What is the maintenance factor? Essentially, how much the governor owes a school district in a year that he has not fully funded a school district. So it's going from 2.9 billion to 3.7 billion. Basically, IOU, the state of California. So this is a slide, I didn't create this one, it came from School Services of California. But what they're trying to illustrate here is that the state is relying on one-time funds to pay for ongoing costs. That is not a sustainable model. So we need to figure out ways to avoid using one-time funds to pay for ongoing costs. Paying for staff salaries, paying for the utility bills. We need to figure out a way to be more efficient funds going forward. So again, what does this mean for Franklin-McKinley School District, especially under LCFF? For the fiscal year 25-26, we're pretty much flat. But when you look out to year 26-27, 27-28, and 28-29, and just compare from the January proposal, which fed the assumptions for our second interim report, to the third interim, which now layers in the information based on the May revise, we're seeing a $1.5 million loss in revenue under LCFF over the years presented here. The question is, if this comes to fruition, if there's not a change in the assumptions that COLA in the future years, or maybe we have more students because we are able to grow enrollment, we need to figure out ways to balance our budget, whether it's going out, applying for and being awarded additional grants, additional donations, or reducing expenditures. We need to figure out new ways to. Based on that information, I've updated the multi-year projection. I always throw in year 23-24, which has already been finished, been audited. I still have the word unaudited in the title, but it has been audited. And in that year, we had a $3.8 million loss. Now looking at year 24-25, that loss grows to $24.3 million. Based on the proposed adjustment to our budget, based on school closures and layoffs, we're currently projecting for year 25-26 of a $6 million loss. We're still working through all the final numbers. That number will change as we work towards bringing you the adopted budget for 25-26. But in year 26-27, that loss continues to increase. The question is, in year 27-28, what will that number be? If it was just another $9 million loss, we're already negative. Is where we do not want to be as a school district. At second interim, The reserve was 2.13% for fiscal year 26-27. Now it's 2% in fiscal year 26-27 based on the May revise. Again, as a reminder, for a district of our size, in the third year, 26-27, we should have a reserve of 3%. And based on our board's additional reserve percentage of 2% based on a previous resolution, we should really be at 5%. So to put this in context, how do we fare against other districts throughout the state of California? Obviously, year 24-25 hasn't finished, so we'll look at year 23-24. On average, elementary school districts had a reserve of 25.54%. Now, if you look at school size, wonder how does that measure out with school size? Unless you're a small district, 1,000 or less in ADA, the reserve percentage ranges from about 22% to 25%, all within general ballpark. Obviously, small districts that have 1,000 or less in ADA need to have a higher reserve balance because their IT system goes down. So water heater breaks, HVAC unit breaks. That's a significant impact to their budget because they have small dollars. So they have to have a large. This is a slide that's put together by school services to try to illustrate on average what we're seeing in our multi-year projection. The columns to the right in blue and orange basically show you the growth in revenue. Looking at COLA as an impact to revenue growth, they break it out between the base revenue of LCFF, supplemental and concentration grant, S/C portion. They compare that to rising costs in each of the years. And the growth relating to step and column, inflation, special education contribution, insurance liabilities. We have expenditures outpacing revenue based on COLA, general assumptions of CPI, consumer price index, and other rising costs. Something that we continue to have to look at, evaluate, and address. One of the things that's become more and more evident is the impact to premiums as it relates to property and liability, as well as workers' comp. Based on the fires that have happened in LA, potential fires in the future, impact on the state's budget, also looking at Assembly Bill 218, there is a forecast coming from School Services of California, as well as FCMAT, that premiums may increase by the tune of 20%. Something that we'll have to look at, we'll have to evaluate and judge for our district. That's the average. On top of workers' comp, that's another premium that might increase by another 5 to 10%. We're doing the best that we can to try to preach the message of safety, all of our staff members, make sure that everyone stays safe so that we can keep our workers' number down. It's something that we have to keep an eye on. My last set of slides here talk about the components of the ending fund balance. Looking at the components, the biggest piece is our mitigation measure. We have $5.2 million in there to help deal with the loss of one-time funds, help extend positions into future years. But $5.2 million is not going to go very far. Something that we need to utilize very quickly to help balance our budget. We also need to earmark a portion of those funds to pay for our supplemental employee retirement programs, our SERPs that have been approved by the board. We now have 3 SERPs, 2 that are down to the last 2 years. 1 we've just approved and have payments over the next 5 years to the tune of $3.1 million 5 years, all 3 plans. Again, our buckets of ending fund balance have to include our 3% reserve. Right now, that would have to be $4.3 million for this fiscal year. And then again, I mentioned earlier about the resolution that has been signed by the board to have an additional reserve of 2%. To meet that, we would need to have another $2.8 million. And then I have several components, non-spendable cash, and other components related to restricted listed here in the buckets for our ending fund balance. I want to spend a little bit more time on the restricted side of things because these funds are restricted for a particular purpose. For example, we have $3.1 million that we're projecting as our ending balance for Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. This can be only utilized to provide an after-school program or an intercession program, such as a winter break, summer break, spring break programs for our students, what it can be used for and only be used for that. We also have Educator Effectiveness Block Grant that has $600,000 projected for the ending of this year to support professional growth for our teachers, administrators, classified staff, for our pupils to provide a focus on social emotional learning and English language acquisition. There are other components here that have been spelled out, summarized. I won't spend time going through each one of those, but of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So as we build our 25-26 budget, we've gotten guidance from School Services of California, as well as the County Office of Education, of what to include and what not to include. This is a nice little summary of the big components of the assumptions and what their advice is to school district. The one thing they said we can hang our hat on is the COLA, 2.3%. That's been codified in Ed Code, so we can go ahead and use that for. But everything else that has been talked about in the May revise, they are recommending not to put into your adopted budget for 25-26. That includes the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, the additional add-on for TK's ratio to go down to 20-2, discretionary block grant, teachers prep, as well as the impact for the new threshold for ELOP. The last two probably will not have an impact for our district because we are tier 1 when it comes to ELOP. And I wouldn't worry about that piece. So we don't have to worry about doing an adjustment for that. Really more for the districts who are tier 2, who potentially could get more funding as a tier 1 school, the new threshold being reduced to 55. So I wanted to quantify some of those components. This was in my second interim update. So this is just a repeat of what I had at second interim. Based on the assumptions, this hasn't changed too much between the second interim and the May revise. But I just wanted to let you know, these are the things that are currently not in our multi-year projections for our district. So potentially, if there's a discretionary block grant, based on current estimates, it could be 1.6 million. If there's additional funding under Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, it could be additional $500,000 per year for 3 years. Again, the TK funding additional ratio or reduction in the ratio for students in TK classroom could generate approximately $442,000 per year. Again, there are also some negatives that we have not put into our budget just yet, and that is the AB 218 impact. Again, what we've paid so far in relation to this assembly bill is $671,000. Property liability insurance, 20% increase per FICMAT has not been included yet. On a bit of good news, but I had the pleasure of sharing to our superintendent on Friday, is that we've gotten some good news as it relates to our Kaiser premium. The expectation is that that premium will actually go down, and we go directly through Keenan for our premiums for Kaiser. The unfortunate part is we don't know what's going to happen with UHC healthcare because we go through the SIG, that process. They're still trying to work on the premium updates relating to. But if you were to take our premium decrease that is currently projected for Kaiser compared to what the SIG is offering for their increase next year, it's actually at 20% of an increase, their premiums. So that's a bit of good news for us. Our experience of results relating to Kaiser have allowed us to have a lower premium for the future year. I've listed some other items here, and I'm going to move on to the next slide, which relates to next steps. This is an action item for the board. It's a little bit different than a second interim or a first interim because you don't have to certify a document by signing off on it, but you do have to approve the presentation so that we can provide this information to the County Office of Education, and then they can ask questions, ask additional questions to clarify information that's presented, and then give us some feedback. I've also included some future steps here as it relates to the remaining days of May, as well as adopting the budget in the month of June. On June 10th, 24th, June 10th will be the opportunity for us to present the information for the board. We could accept any feedback on that night, try to put that feedback into an updated presentation on June 20th. This coincides with the same window of time relating to the LCAP being presented on June 10th, then being adopted on June. So with that, I open it up to any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Jason, for that overview of our budget at this time. Board members, do we have any questions you want to ask Jason at this time? Mark, go ahead.
Yes, I just had one question, although I wrote down many of them, many more, but the one is, we're going to present this, once we vote on this, we're going to present this to the county. Then what? Did you just tell me the steps? I missed that. What's the next, once we
Yes.
present this to the county, then what's going to happen?
So the county is going to provide feedback to us. They may say, did you look at this? Did you look at that? What is your assumptions for your multi-year projections? What are you still working on? They'll provide us feedback that we utilize for preparing our adopted budget for 25, 26 and the 2 out years.
Do they make suggestions, or do they make
They make suggestions.
mandates, what we must do?
They make suggestions on what we should utilize for our assumptions. They'll make mandates in terms of fiscal solvency. They will probably ask for us to update our budget plan to help reduce our expenditures in the future. And that will be something that we probably have to have buttoned up, if not by June 24th, shortly thereafter, because obviously fiscal solvency, the County Office of Education, as well as for us.
All right, thank you.
Board member Rodriguez, go ahead.
Thanks, Jason, for the presentation.
Mhm.
So just looking at the big picture,
Mhm.
the way it works is we have to work on assumptions because the state budget is not approved yet, correct?
That's correct.
And that's kind of we've already talked about this and
Mhm.
reviewed this in the past. It's kind of a backwards way of looking at it because
Mhm.
we're trying to guess what the state is going to do
Correct.
and approve. And until they approve the budget, we're going to have to just go on projections and assumptions.
Correct.
As a matter of fact, even if the state budget was approved, we still have to work on projections for the future years because that's what people usually do when they do budget projections. So I go back to slide 9, and first of all, that's, let's see, let me look at slide 9. So multi-year projections at third interim. Okay, so the first interim was in January, right?
First interim actually was presented in December.
Last
This past
summer.
December.
Okay. So all of these have been on projections. So those are on projections. So they're not really, this is not really actually what it's going to turn out to be, but it's based on,
What
based
we
on
know
your
at the time.
experience projection.
Right.
Okay. So then you go up to slide 12. The multi-year cost forecast, again, those are on what we think is going to happen based on the forecast, correct?
You said slide 12. Did you mean a different slide number?
The multi-year, slide 11.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah, it's 12 on the PDF because
Oh.
I guess the title slide is slide 1. So so slide 11, multi-year cost forecast, those are based on the assumptions and the projections that we're working with, right?
And these are assumptions for the state of California. This is not looking at
Right.
Franklin-McKinley.
Right, correct. What is the question mark after special education contribution? Are we just unsure about that funding in the future
That's not funding. That's an actual
Or-
cost.
or the expense? I
So-
mean, we're just unsure
so-
about it.
Just so that make sure that everybody understands what contribution is. So essentially, special education is a mandated program from the federal government. The federal government provides X% of funding towards special education. They do not fully fund education or special education programs. So there has to be a contribution from our unrestricted general fund to cover the full cost of the special education program. And the reason why they put a question mark there is because that number is going to vastly change depending on which school district you look at within the state of California. That's why there's a question mark right there.
On special education funding.
Correct.
Okay, then to go quickly, to go on to the PDF, page 15, slide 14. Buckets of the projected ending balance. We really don't know what it's going to be ending. We're just projecting what's going to be the ended balance on that, right?
This is a projection, but this is actually related to this year, fiscal year
Right.
24,
Right.
25.
Yeah,
So
and I'm not questioning your intellectual thought process on this.
Mhm.
I'm just making sure that I know that based on experience being on the board through the years, that we always tend to turn out better than what has been projected. So, it's just we're just being a very conservative projections when we've done that in the past, and it's helped protect our finances. So there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying what has actually happened in the past. So, so that's been that. And then on slide 17, page 16, slide 16, page 17 of the PDF. Again, it talks about the next steps, and the school services of California. Are they the ones that assign the risk level on these?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure of that. And then we didn't go over this slide, but over on let's see here. What is it? There it is on page 28, slide 27. It says school services financial projection dartboard. They have COLA increasing through the future years.
Yeah, this is the same.
Am I correct on that?
This is the same COLA that I presented on my earlier slides.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, the percentage is actually increasing for COLA. Correct. But these numbers were less than what was in January. What I tried to articulate.
Okay. And the last thing, based on my career knowledge of insurance, the property and liability insurance, I think that projection of it, the premiums increasing is pretty good, pretty accurate, because it most likely, in my opinion, it will be increasing. So that's just based on my experience in 30 years in the industry. Okay, thank you, Jason.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Rodriguez. Board Member Hong.
Thank you, Jason, for the presentation
Yep.
tonight. As a board member and a community advocate, I take it really seriously, our responsibility to ensure that every budget decision reflects our core values, equity, transparency, and student success. So I really appreciate all you being very clear about our budget. The third interim report, I think, highlights the challenges that we have ahead of us. The ongoing deficit spending, the drop in enrollment, and future reserves projected to fall below the state required minimum. These are not just numbers. I think we need to remember that these represent very difficult choices that we will have to make, us as a board will have to make to ensure the long-term stability while protecting our district, the heart of our district, our students, our staff, and our families. And I want to acknowledge that the school budgets are really complex. In conversations I've had with multiple people, as Trustee Rodriguez mentioned, some may feel like we're being too conservative about our projections, but the reality is that we are required by law to maintain this 3%, correct?
That's correct.
The reserve, and our current projections show us falling below that for 2026, 2027. And without action, I think we will risk losing local control, which we've mentioned multiple times in the past few months, and having decisions made for us by the county or the state. So these necessary cuts should not be made lightly, but making adjustments early, even small ones, I believe, can help us avoid deeper disruptions later. So I do have some questions that I've have come up in conversations that I've had with community members that I'd like to put on record.
Yep.
Are there any scenarios in which we meet our 3% reserve requirement by 2026, 27 without further staffing or program cuts?
That is a great question. There could be a scenario in which the government all of a sudden finds a lot of money in Sacramento, and then we could avoid doing cuts. Right now, he's not projecting that. So I don't think there's going to be a scenario that would get us to 3% without additional.
Thank you. In light of the depleted state rainy day fund, are we doing anything to prepare for any mid-year budget volatility or any additional deferrals? What are we doing now to minimize the risk?
So in terms of deferrals, thankfully right now we do have some bond funds that we can borrow from temporarily to help deal with deferrals. Thankfully, the deferrals that are being presented by the governor are going to be over weeks instead of months, which have happened in the past. If that holds true, from a cash standpoint, we'll be okay at least for the next 12 months. The question will be more about long-term cash
Thank
for our
you.
district.
And what assumptions have the biggest impact on whether or not we dip below the 3%? What are within our control to change?
So the things that are in control is the number of staff that we have, obviously. Obviously, there are other programs, initiatives, of contracted services, both on the ed services side of the house, as well as the non-ed services side of the house that we can look at and try to eliminate. But the biggest part of our budget is relating to staff compensation, looking at about 80%. So to see significant cuts to reverse our current trajectory, to try to do that without impacting staff would be very, very.
Thank you. Another question I have is, with the anticipation elimination of Title III funds, how are we assessing the equity impact of the reductions on our English learners and other vulnerable groups? I want to make sure that we aren't unintentionally creating deeper opportunity gaps.
Yes, we've had some early conversations within cabinet about what do we do if this actually comes to fruition, and trying to tap into other funds to help make up for the loss. We're still trying to formulate a final plan, maybe tapping into LCFF funding. Obviously, it's going to mean a shift. It's going to mean, I don't want to use the phrase that my mom used to tell me when I was little, but it's going to be taking money from one program to help replace the funding that's lost in another program. Unfortunate part.
Thank you. And what is our communication engagement plans with families before fall begins, especially those at those schools that might be impacted by school and layoffs?
Yes, so typically we work with Volair to do our district-wide communication to families through Parent Square, as well as through various other updates through our website and social media. We also try to work closely with our administrators at the school sites because they have the best connection with our families to try to provide updates as it relates to the budget and impact on their school site. A lot of that communication goes through cafecitos or coffee breaks principal has with their community members. We can also use parent groups to help spread the word. So there's various modalities in which we can try to get the word out on the financial impact.
Thank you. Sorry, I have two more questions. What is our plan to grow our ADA through attendance recovery or community outreach? As you mentioned, that is related to our budget and the money we have for revenue.
As it relates to attendance recovery, we're looking for more opportunities to have weekend classes on Saturdays to help recover ADA. So for students who have missed class for whatever reason throughout the year, they have the opportunity to go to classes on the weekends and recover that ADA, which helps to protect our revenue district, as well as provide additional instructional time to those who have missed it, whatever. So that's the big plan right now. We're trying to make sure that we can tap into the ELOP funds to help that move forward. So we've been having lots of conversations on what are the things that we want to keep within our ELOP program, what are the we want to put a pause on, what things do we want to let go so that we perform a robust Saturday after school program.
Thank you. And that's new, right?
The ability to use ELOP funds to pay for attendance recovery is new. Attendance recovery itself has not been, but this is the first time that we were able to.
Yeah, that's true. On Saturdays, we've been able to recover ADA in the past. What is added to next year's abilities, the district's ability to recover ADA, is to use ELOP funds and also recover ADA during vacation days, which intercession. In the past, we could not do that. We could only do it on a Saturday. And then the additional thing that the state changed the rules is that you can bank time that you serve in these ADA recovery So if a student comes to intercession and has not had an absence, and then the student subsequently has an absence, that absence is recovered as they banked. The other change is that teachers can offer before school and after school intervention. And when the student completes 4 hours of intervention, that can recover. So the state has created basically incentives for districts to be able to offer more instructional time to students by then recovering the AD.
Thank you for clarifying that. And again, I do want to say, I want to make sure that our decisions are grounded in data and community voice. And I ask that we continue engaging families, staff, and students early and as often as we can navigate this together. And I don't want it just to fall to the wayside because this is happening. And again, I want to take a moment to thank our staff for their work and presenting the honest projections of what's happening and not avoiding these tough conversations because they're really tough conversations. So let's keep working together to find a solution grounded in equity and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Hong Hong. Board Member Sanchez?
Thank you, Jason, for the presentation. A lot of the questions I had have already been asked.
Okay.
I know these interim reports are pretty sombering nowadays. I know it's difficult because it's like you're aiming for a moving target, right? Based on these assumptions, we can only do our best based on educated guesses of what the budget's going to be. With that being said, thank you for presenting the information. I just want to remind the board at this point, with our projections, now is the time that we have to start meeting with the superintendent and the cabinet to start talking about structural changes or outside revenue sources or grants now. Now is our time to start contacting local officials and state officials to see how we can collaborate with them. I don't think we can wait until 26, 27 again and say, we didn't know about this or we didn't have enough time. We can't do that again. Jason has given us ample information based on educated guesses, right? And also, and given us projections all the way to 26, 27. So now I would encourage all board members to start interacting with the cabinet and Superintendent Cruz to start being proactive with this now. Thank you, Jason.
Jason, I just had a couple of things real quick. We know how ADA very much drives, our budgets. And I was going to ask, I'm sure you've kept in contact with the enrollment center in terms of the figures. And we know it's early, it's early. But do we have any figures that we can take a look at and maybe feel optimistic or maybe pessimistic in terms of what's going to happen in the next few months? What do you think?
So we have been tracking enrollment for next year, 25-26. One of the positives for next year, 25-26, is that our TK numbers are growing. So we're going to have additional TK classrooms. We'll have at least one TK classroom at each of our school sites for next year,
Good.
based on the growth in our student population.
Good.
Outside of that, we're still declining enrollment.
Right.
But hopefully that is a good sign for, hopefully that continues to move forward. Move forward. Multi-year.
And I know it's early and, in terms of the closure of some of the schools that not going to be there next year. But do we have any idea in terms of, and again, it's early right now, how many kids we might possibly lose, like say Ramblewood, are we looking at possible loss of students there to other districts, other schools,
I have not asked for a quantity of students have opted out of one of the Franklin-McKinley School District programs for this year,
Right.
from the enrollment center, but I can certainly get that and share that with you. But anecdotally, the number of students that have chosen to leave our districts because of the school closure has been minimal, but I can certainly get a finite.
Okay. Yeah. If you can, just keep tabs on that for us. I appreciate it very much. Board members, do we have anything else? Board Member Rodriguez? Yes, go ahead.
And George, thank you for bringing up the enrollment thing because I'm a huge optimist and I really think that our enrollment will turn the corner and start increasing. I know that I keep saying this year in and year out, but I really do think that will happen in the next 5 years. I don't know about the state, but I know about this area after living here for 25 years that I just think that our enrollment will start increasing. And part of the reason is because we have such an awesome district and we have great teachers, we have great after-school programs and so forth. So I really appreciate you asking that question about the enrollment because there are some positive things that will come out of that. I do have some questions about the last 2 slides in the appendix. There's one on new requirements for school transportation based on from Senate Bill 88, and then also the AB 5, which is Safe and Supportive Schools Act. Is there a financial projection on those?
Not as of yet. This is a very new legislation that has gone through and been approved by the state of California. So we'll have to work on the potential impacts of these 2 particular bills.
I'll just add for AB 5, that is as part of our just mandated staff training that staff do through Keenan. So they're assigned a module, they complete it, and so HR keeps track of all the mandated training that all staff are required, right? Such as mandated reporting, sexual harassment. So there's a series of trainings that every staff member has to take every year.
So we don't have a choice. This is a law. We have to teach LGBTQ plus cultural competency training, correct?
Or we have to train staff that teach 7th grade and up.
All right. Thank you.
Anything else, board members? Just one more thing, Jason. Well, thank you for bringing up so much stuff tonight. One of the things you did touch base on was Head Start, which it's off the chopping block, I guess, right now. I mean,
Right now.
it's pretty solid. Yeah, right now. But I was going to ask you too, in terms of Catholic Charities, is that going to continue on for the foreseeable future, or where are we at with that programs of that type?
So for Catholic Charities, we definitely tap into 2 funding sources, ACES and ELOP.
Okay.
So those programs will continue into next year, 25, 26. The question is, how much can we offer? So we may have to make decisions on how many programs we offer per school site. But we're trying to maintain as many of the programs as we can. We're trying to sit down with Catholic Charities to talk about how they've designed the program for next year so that we can continue to offer as many seats as possible.
Okay. Well, that's good. I just hope we can continue programs of that type, really beneficial to our kids. Okay, anything else, board members? If not, this is an action item. Item 6.01. If we have no more questions, I'll need a motion in a second. Item 6.01.
I move to accept the 3rd interim report.
Second. All right, so we have a first and a second. Item 6.01, fiscal year 2024-25, 3rd interim report. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. And thank you once more, Jason, for getting all that together for us. Okay, at this time, we'll jump to item number 7. Consent items under $25,000. Members of the public may address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items. In accordance with board bylaws 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. So we have 7.01 and 7.02 under 7 item, consent item number 7. You want to pull any of these, board members? If not, I'll need a motion and a second on this item.
I move to approve consent item 7.01 and 7.02.
I second.
Okay, so we have a first and a second, item 7, which deals with 7.01, 7.02. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Let's go on to item number 8. And this item number 8, again, consent items over $25,000. Members of the public may address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items. In accordance with board bylaws 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. So we have item 8.01 and 8.02. Take a look at those. If you want to pull, let me know. If not, I'll need a motion and a second on these items.
Move to approve consent items 8.01 and 8.02.
Second.
Okay, so we have a first and a second to approve items 8.01, 8.02. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion passes. Let's go on to item number 9. Number 9 deals with construction items. Members of the public may address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items. In accordance with Board Bylaws 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. And we have 9.01. We'll take a look at that. And then if there's no questions and nobody wants to pull it, I'll need a motion and a second item 9.01.
Move to approve construction item 9.01.
I second.
All right, so we have a first and second to approve construction item 9.01. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion passes. Let's go down to action items, and we start out with 10.01, the May 13, 2025 open session minutes. So take a look at that, and then I'll need a motion and a second, item 10.01.
Move to approve the May 13th open session minutes.
Second.
All right, so we have a first and a second, item 10.01. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. Let's go on to 10.02. This is our personnel report, so Vice President Sanchez will give that personnel report to us.
I move that the personnel report be approved as submitted and that a 39th month rehire for the following employee be approved. Antonia Soria, custodian, district office, effective 5/23/2025.
Second.
Okay, so we have a first and a second, item 10.02, all a personnel report. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. Let's go on to item 10.03. Update to 2024-25 and 2025-26 authorized signers for Franklin-McKinley School District. 10.03.
Yes, so this is an item that we bring to the board each year.
Yes.
The one slight difference from previous years is that we just recently hired our new Director of Fiscal Services.
Correct.
So we would like to make her an approved signer for the remainder of the year as well as for next year. But this is something that we bring to the board each time. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to any questions you may have. This is a pretty standard practice of making sure that the county knows who our approved signers for checks are. So that when there is something that has to be paid, they know who is authorized to pay it, and they can check that against this authorized signer list.
Board members, any questions on item 10.03? If not, I'll need a motion and a second on this item, 10.03.
Move to approve the update to the 24-25 and 25-26 authorized signers for FMSD.
I second.
So we have a first and second item 10.03. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. Let's go on to item 10.04, resolution number 2025-35, Juneteenth. Superintendent, do you want to address that?
Yes, so Juneteenth is a national holiday now, and so we have been now bringing this resolution to highlight the importance of the Juneteenth holiday for African-American residents and just in general to recognize contributions that they've provided.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any comments, board members, on item 10.04? Just want to say real quick, Juneteenth, it seems like it's a holiday that's become more, I guess, open, more visible, than it was before. And you could see that, especially areas like Texas, where you do have a lot of celebrations per se, in that particular state, But any other comments, board members, you might have on Juneteenth?
Yes, I did. And I've done some research in that lately, and I didn't understand it completely like I do now, but
Right.
I saw it was the whole country was already doing this.
Yes.
So it was only the state of Texas that was actually not
Right.
recognizing Emancipation Proclamation, which President Lincoln had already stated and
Correct.
proclaimed. So, I mean, I'm glad. I think that, in my opinion, which I'm not the president that made this, I believe it was President Trump that proclaimed this, made this national holiday, but I would make that a state holiday, but it's not. It's a federal holiday now because it was just the state of Texas. But I will definitely be voting in favor of this as well.
Okay. Other comments, board members?
Just want to
Yep.
thank.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. All right. I just want to thank Superintendent Cruz for bringing this forward. I think Juneteenth is an important day of reflection education and celebration for our country. You know, it's one of the most important chapters in our nation's ongoing struggle for equity and equality for all peoples. And so I think as a school board, it's our duty as educators and leaders to ensure that our students that receive the full, truthful history of this country to uplift the values of freedom and equity for all students. And so thank you, Superintendent Cruz, for bringing this forward, and I will be supporting this.
Anything else, board members?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, Board Member Rodriguez.
Yeah, I would like to encourage all the board members to contact our former trustee Milan Valentin, because he is the executive director of the African American Community Services Agency.
Correct.
And every year they do a festival and parade downtown. And I have been to it for the past number of years. I can't remember how many now. And it's well worth going to the event, especially for the food. But
Okay.
but it's a very nice event. So I encourage you all to attend.
Yeah, I'd like to go this year. Yes, go ahead.
I want to thank everybody and Superintendent Cruz for bringing this to the table. And I just want to say that when we celebrate Juneteenth in our schools, it gives our students an opportunity to see themselves in the story of America. And it's really good to really understand the struggles and progress that have shaped our country. I think this is really important.
Thank you, Board Member. Okay, let's go. Okay, I'll need a motion, a second on this item.
Move to approve resolution 2025-35 Juneteenth.
I second.
All right, so we have a first and a second, item 10.04, resolution number 2025-35 Juneteenth. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. That motion passes. Okay, let's go on to item 10.05. This is another resolution number 2025-34 in support of LGBTQIA plus Pride Month. And we do have a speaker, two speakers. I have Dr. Bodine. Go ahead and come up.
Hello, good evening again. I have a question for you. If not flying the LGBTQIA plus flag would increase your students' proficiencies in math and English, would you do it? Would you not fly it if that would actually raise your students' scores? Because I shared the example earlier that Los Gatos Union doesn't fly this flag and they have far higher scores than you do. That's not a direct correlation necessarily, but there's something different that they're doing than what you guys are doing. So I suggest that you maybe take a suggestion from things that they do. The resolution does, quote, support the safety and educational achievement of LGBTQIA plus students. So why wouldn't you support that for all students? All students should be free of discrimination and treated equally. I would say the golden rule would be applicable for everyone. We don't need to call out, treat this group specially or treat that group specially. Everyone should be treated with respect and not discriminated against. So do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's how we all should live. So I would suggest you promote the golden rule and teach all people to treat all people with equal respect and honor. I also see in the resolution that you have 1 month and 4 other days called out in this resolution. You are certainly pushing a particular agenda and one that does not represent everyone in FMSD. If you want to be truly inclusive, why not promote something like Flag Day? The American flag represents all of us that live in this country, and that's truly inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have Minji Bodine come up.
Hello. So this resolution comes with a lot of history. So I would like to put in the history of our Constitution to look at this resolution. So January 1st, 1802, President Thomas Jefferson wrote to the Danbury Baptist Association in response to a letter in which they raised their concern about religious liberty even being infringed by the American government. Jefferson responded that this would not occur because the Constitution builds, quote, a wall of separation between church and state, unquote. Jefferson was simply using the phrase to describe the free exercise clause of the First Amendment, which says, quote, prohibiting the free exercise thereof, unquote. The protection of our churches from the government's interference, not the government from the church, is what was being expressed, both in the letter and in the First Amendment. The real intention of the First Amendment regarding religion is to avoid another Church of England being established as a national denomination being forced upon the citizens in America. People are free to express their religious rights anywhere, including the government institutions like this. Fast forward 186 years. In 1962, the Supreme Court progressive ignored the founders' original intention and made up a new laws from the bench to fulfill their particular agenda and purpose, and used the phrase separation of church and state, which has never been found in the Constitution nor founding documents. So they can completely remove God from all governmental institutions. Fast forward 233 years, I am standing in front of you, FMSD board meeting, to tell you this story and remind you that your LGBTQ resolution is forcing one of the many government religions upon people, and it is unconstitutional. It is exactly the opposite of what Thomas Jefferson guaranteed to the Danbury Baptist Church, that government shall never force its religion upon people. This is the religion of forcing people to watch the flag raising and celebration for 2 months a year, every year, to indoctrinate our children in the name of protecting minorities. But in reality, it's the victimhood mentality. In other words, it's communism, which California Education Code 51530 prohibits. The only flag we are all proud of is America. In America is the flag of red, white, and blue, nothing else. I know some of you cannot wait to pass this resolution after I finished regarding of its unconstitutionality. But to some of you teachers, you can save FMSD from more federal investigation troubles by checking out the historical facts, where the phrase separation of church and state came from, where it came from, and re-examine the resolution of the LGBTQ religion forced upon we the people year after year.
Thank you. Okay, those are the speakers we had. Board members, comments on this particular item?
Yes, I'd like to make comment.
Go ahead.
And I did a lot of work looking into this, making notes, and I will present these to the secretary for all of my notes. I'm not going to read all 4-page sections of these notes. I will provide them for public record. Looking at the first part, the first, whereas members of the Franklin-McKinley Board of Education support the rights, freedoms, and equality of those who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and asexual. And I won't read out all the alphabet letters, but that's what we do. And it's already been mentioned. That's what we do and we should do for all students. So that, putting that right at the very front, and I'm just saying this special group, no, we do that for all of our students. And so I again, there's some things in here I totally agree with that. And that is one, we protect the rights of all students to be and look and act the way that they are. And I will remind us that especially that we swear to uphold the Constitution, California and the United States. In the Declaration of Independence, we are given the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So yes, we still encourage students to be who they are, and whatever ethnicity, whatever background, whatever philosophy they ascribe to. I look on the second page up, and it says, now therefore, the first now therefore statement, be it resolved that the Franklin-McKinley School District Board of Education stands in solidarity with the LGBTQIA plus, and throw a question out. What does that plus mean? That mean sex with children? Does that mean sex with them? We don't know what the plus means because it's arbitrary. We don't know anything that can be added onto that. I'll throw that out. Interesting. Students stand in solidarity with the LGBTQIA plus students in opposing discriminatory legislation that aims to prohibit classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity. Now, we know that's already been brought out by the state of California. We know the liberals, we know that they've already mandated that we teach that we know that. So I'm not even arguing with whether we should do that or not. It's already been told that we have to. But I ran on, and I was elected by my constituents in this Franklin-McKinley School District to represent a large number of parents who feel that those things should be discussed at home. And we should be focusing on math. And I was probably the most conservative candidate when I ran 2.5 years ago. My statement was very clear. Let's go back to the basics. Let's teach reading, writing, math, science, the arts. Let's go back to the basics and keep all the other things like gender identity discussions, sexual orientation discussions, and teaching. Let that be done at home. And I was elected. So I do represent that voice. And there's a large number of voices still in our community who feel the same exact way, that we should focus on education in school as a school board of education and leave the others discussions to be had at home. And I'm glad it was brought out that AB 1955 is being looked at seriously by the federal government, that we are trying to keep that information from the parents in direct violation of federal law. So I'm glad, I hope to see something come out of that. And then a little further down, be it further resolved that Franklin-McKinley School District supports adoption, implementation, and enforcement of policies that support the safety and educational achievement of LGBTQIA+ students. We do that for everybody. We do that for everybody. Again, isolating this one group, not necessary. We do that for everybody. I'm going to share some personal observations. Again, I will share all of this information with the secretary, and they will be public record. 3 times in the history of the United States, our Supreme Court has ruled our country as a Christian country. No matter what you think or what you believe it to be, it has been ruled a Christian country by the Supreme Court. The God of the Bible and Jesus himself condemns homosexuality, lesbian, and all illicit sexual acts. Porneia in Greek is acts of immorality. You can look it up, and I will present you the references. You can look it up yourself. So the God that we say, under one nation under God, that we salute, that we say is the God of our country, and yet we're going to say this is okay? No. Oh, and I think we have Roman Catholics in our community and on our board. Did you know that Pope Leo XIV just recently said, and I have a quotation from PBS, "The family is founded on the stable union between a man and a woman," end of quotes, "and that the unborn and elderly enjoy dignity as God's creatures," articulating clear Catholic teaching on marriage and abortion at the start of his pontificate. Oh, it wasn't just Pope Leo XIV who just said that marriage between one man and one woman is the basic foundation of our society. But Pope Francis, rest in peace, he strongly reaffirmed core Catholic teaching opposing abortion and euthanasia, saying we're evidence in today's throwaway culture. But he also reaching out to LGBTQ+ Catholics, a hallmark, insisting that they are welcome in the church, as Christian churches are welcoming gays and lesbians into their, and if you don't know, into their congregations. This is Pope Francis, he never changed church doctrine, defining marriage as a union between a man and a woman, and homosexual acts is intrinsically disordered, quotes. And that was the Pope. So Roman Catholics, the Holy Father, the Pope, said that that's wrong too. And I won't go into reading the executive order from the President Trump, who's made it very clear there's only two sexes, male, female. That's it. And there's no changing your sex from a male to a female and female to a male. That's not scientifically possible. Again, I will include that with my papers. So what I'd like to say in conclusion, all people have the rights to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We know that. It's in our Declaration of Independence. We know that. We will always, in this district and all school districts, we will always protect and provide a safe place for all students. All students. And we will investigate and we will take care of bullying so it doesn't happen to our schools. If they're a homosexual, lesbian, or they don't know or what ethnicity or culture they're from, it doesn't matter. We protect our students. And thirdly, people who elected me feel it's a parent's right to educate and discuss their child's sexual identity and ideas at home, away from the school. I will not support this. This is immoral, and a Christian myself, I cannot. And if you're Catholic and you ascribe to what the Holy Father would even recommend and suggest, how can you vote for this? And it's not that we're disagreeing with what the state's saying, but I cannot do this morally or in my conscience to celebrate something that God says, the Pope says, and the President says is immoral and wrong. I will not vote for anything that celebrates something that God says, the Pope says, and the President says is wrong. I encourage you to do the same thing. Vote on your conscience.
Other board members? Anybody else?
All right, well,
All right.
they say there's no hate like Christian love. I just want to say that, I mean, when you look at teens that are identified with LGBTQ plus community, I mean, they have the highest rate of bullying in our schools. They have the highest rates of suicide or attempted suicides of all teenagers in schools. I mean, they're bullied by not only students, but I'm fearful that they're bullied by teachers also that don't approve their identities, which is horrific to think about. And 40% of our homeless youth that we have in the Bay Area identify as LGBTQ plus. So you can't tell me that this is a group that's identical to other groups. This is a targeted group for attacks, especially in our schools. Our schools have to be the safe haven for these students where they feel that they are safe, they can express themselves, and only then can they learn. And so I'm going to support this resolution because I feel that all students need to be seen, they need to be safe, they need to be respected. And this isn't about indoctrination or anything like that. I mean, this isn't a church. We don't endorse one religion here. We support our students to make them feel safe. And with them being a targeted group, I mean, schools have to be places where students are safe, where they can thrive, not only academically, but socially and emotionally as well. And so for that reason, I'm going to support this resolution.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz, for bringing this to the table, and Stephen for Trustee or Vice President Sanchez for bringing the data and the important points to that. I just want to say that I believe every student deserves to feel safe, seen, and supported for who they are. Our resolution is to recognize Pride Month is about honoring people, affirming their dignity, and reflecting the lived experiences of our students and our families. Yes, we are aware, but being aware means we understand the history, the struggles, and the humanity that our communities, of the communities we serve. And if that means that we're leading with compassion and inclusion, I'm proud to stand with these values. I'm proud to say that I support this resolution. Pride Month reminds us that of how far we've come, from Stonewall to marriage equality, how far we still have to go. And by fostering inclusive classrooms, we send a clear message. You belong here. And we know that when students feel like they belong, they're more engaged, they're more confident, and they're more ready to learn. And creating a safe and inclusive environment is what good educators do to help students succeed. I believe we remain committed to protecting all of our students, regardless of race, regardless of religion, immigration status, or sexual orientation, because every student deserves an opportunity to learn in a place where they're respected and supported.
Board Member Rodriguez, go ahead.
So First of all, I'm very proud to say that I'm a lifelong Catholic. And when I went to classes for my first communion, for my confirmation, and so on, I was taught to love everyone. And that's how I'm going to be. And that's why I'm going to support this resolution. Because we must care about everyone. And for someone to say that we're isolating one group with this resolution, it should be for everyone. I say to those people who say that again, that is explicit bigotry and should not be allowed in this room. And I take it as offensive, and I'm very proud to recognize when someone says things like that it is absolutely explicit bigotry and it's wrong. And to hear it from people who say that they have faith in God is just absolutely inappropriate, because it's definitely not according to the Bible that I believe in. So I'm going to be supporting this resolution. Thank you.
And I'm going to also support the resolution. And the reason I'm supporting is because this is a group that's been very much ostracized, prejudiced against, discriminated against, so on in past times. It's finally coming out into the open, I guess you could say, and is being accepted very much throughout the country and other countries too, where they are very much protected. So this is a group, again, that we want to go ahead and make it to be part of our society, and that they have equal rights here with everybody else. And that's why I feel comfortable moving forward with this resolution that we've all also brought forth many times. Not the first time that we brought it forward. How many times have we brought it forward, Superintendent? Maybe 10 years in a row, something like that?
I know this has been brought forward even before my tenure here, so more than 10 years.
Yes, it started way a long time back. I think Private Dr. Porter brought it forth originally. But anyway, so I am very supportive. Okay, anything else? If not, call for the question at this time.
I move to approve resolution, where is it? Number 2025-34 in support of LGBTQIA+ Pride Month.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second, item 10.05, resolution number 2025-34 in support of LGBTQIA+ Pride Month. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No.
All opposed, 1 no. So that passes 4-1. All right, let's go on to item number 11, communications from the superintendent. Superintendent.
Yes, thank you. I had the opportunity to attend the East Side Union High School District public hearing on the 20th at the Edward Buena High School, where they discussed the process that the district is going through to create voting districts, or splitting up the district and not having at-large elections for that district. So there is an app that you can go and create a map that you would think would be in the best interest of the community, how to create those voting districts, and submit it to the district for consideration if you'd like. There's going to be a few other public hearings coming up, and so encourage the community to be engaged, as this has a potential impact on the representation of communities within the Eastside Union High School District. I also had the opportunity to go watch the flag football finals. Congratulations to the Santee Bears that won the championship this year. They had the opportunity to play in our very brand new nice field at Bridges, and the kids said that it made them run faster. It's just like when we buy brand new tennis shoes and they make us run faster. But it was just great to be able to see the kids out there enjoying themselves and having a good time playing football. We also had attended the Helio Ramblewood Unity Festival on Friday. So thank you to Principal Jacinto always does a good job of hosting these events for parents in the evening. And then and then we also had the opportunity to go to Kennedy to watch the Finding Nemo play that they put on. Just amazing the work that Audacity does with our kids there and our kids memorizing all those lines. It's just great to be able to see them play and the families come out and see their kids performing. So it's always a treat. And so thank you to Audacity. Thank you to Principal Alvarez there. This is the only school that we have this opportunity to put on this show.
Thank you, Superintendent. And now we go on to reports from the Board of Education. And I think we'll start with my far left board member, Hong.
Thank you, President Sanchez. The past 2 weeks, there's been plenty of opportunities to engage with the community. And so earlier this month, we had our board retreat. And it was a really pleasure meeting Manny Barbara, the CEO of Silicon Valley Education Foundation, and I felt like it was a very productive meeting. We spent time getting to know each other, exploring our leadership styles, and beginning the process of setting team norms. I'm excited to continue this work, perhaps through a governance handbook, because I believe having shared norms is really important for governing together and to support our students. On Friday, May 16th, I had the joy of watching Kennedy Elementary's production of Finding Nemo. It was really incredible seeing such a large cast, an enthusiastic cast take the stage. As someone who grew up with the movie, it was really heartwarming to watch a creative adaptation brought to life by students and our young performers. They clearly learned teamwork, the confidence, and performing skills through the process. That same evening, I also attended the choral dance-off at Sylvandale. It was amazing seeing all the performers, the talent, the energy. It was really inspiring. And I want to congratulate Ramblewood for winning first place in the junior division. Events like this really showcase the joy that our students have and the strength of our community. And it was also really wonderful seeing our Andrew Hill Falcons in attendance too. It really reminded me how interconnected we are. On Saturday, May 17th, I attended my orientation at San Jose State for my doctoral program, and I was really honored to hear the words and wisdom of all the people before us. I had the opportunity to hear from Principal Mariana Alvarez from Kennedy, and I know many of our district leaders came from the San Jose State program. And I'm excited to grow both as an educator in Eastside and a trustee here through the program. On May 20th, I also attended the Eastside second public hearing on trustee area and district redistricting, and I emphasized the need to making mapping tools and information more accessible to families, particularly in our feeder school communities. And I really appreciate Superintendent Cruz spreading that information in FMSD. I think decisions like that really impact our communities, and it's really important to make sure that we're all represented. And we must prioritize transparency and engagement. On May 21st, I had the opportunity to visit Rocket Ship Mosaic, and I met Principal Taylor Stern and CEO Preston Smith. And there was also a delegation from Portugal who was also visiting that day when I was there. And I believe in learning from each other in all of our schools, both our community schools and our charters. And I think learning from each other is a way to help us better support our students. I really appreciate Rocket Ship's launch and landing meeting models and their use of differentiated instructions in small groups. These are things I use in my classroom that I would love to see more of. When we put students first, it's really important to find that common ground and learn together. On May 23rd, I attended Hellier Ramblewood Unity Festival with many of our other trustees. It was a really great event, beautiful celebration of culture, food, and community. I really enjoyed the student performances, and at the very end, there was a piñata that I think truly captured the spirit of togetherness. It was a lot of fun, and I got a chance to pass out some pencils. Today I had the great opportunity of speaking with San Jose City Council member Peter Ortiz. I think it's really important to build relationship with our local leaders and aligning efforts across the city in order to uplift our students and our communities and our families. He let me know that we'll be soon receiving a memo regarding a proposal to limit the number of smoke shops in the east side. I think there was a disproportionate concentration, almost nearly double in the east side compared to other parts of Santa Clara County. And I think this is an important discussion for the health and safety of our schools and our students and our community. And the last thing I did is I was able to complete my mental health first aid training today. And this training reminded me of how essential it is to normalize the conversations around mental health, recognize the signs of distress, and know how to support one another in the community with empathy and action, especially with all the things going on, both locally and at the federal level. And I truly believe that the mental health first aid training is important for all school board trustees, teachers, and advocates in our communities to support our schools. Supporting mental health wellness is not just important, but it's really urgent, and it's something that we can all take part in. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Hong. Board Member Sanchez?
All right, thank you. May 15th, we had our board retreat. We discussed expectations for functional teams, leadership styles, current transparent norms of interaction that the board currently has. We also briefly did a review of the Brown Act and goals for the board. So thank you, Manny, Barbara, for facilitating that. May 16th, FMEA had an end of the year event. Again, I just want to thank all the teachers for everything that they do. Their incredible passion and dedication to our students, especially as a district is facilitating through this financial storm. They've continued to provide quality education and care for our students. And so thank you again for all the FMEA teachers, everything that you do for our students and our communities. 5/16, I also went to Kennedy. So with Audacity Arts, they put on that Finding Nemo play. As you know, it becomes one of, I think their plays are one of my favorite end of the year events to go to at this point. And every year they top the previous year with their plays. And so thank you to Principal Alvarez, the directors, and also Lewis from Audacity Arts for putting that on for our community. I also attended on May 19th, the Asian Pacific Islander School Board Members Association. They hosted a Navigating Federal Threats to Education and the Impact on the AAPI Community Seminar. A majority of that discussion was based around the impact of Trump's policies on K-12 education and the executive orders that are targeting districts like ours. So diverting of resources, ending DEI programs, reduction of funds, and also the desired elimination of English language acquisition programs. And so that's going to hit our district definitely different than other districts as well. And so it was a really good seminar to attend. And lastly, I attended the Cultivating Literacy's Family Read Night at Kennedy. So Catholic Charities was there. San Jose Public Library had booths to offer resources for families. They had great workshops to show families how to read with their kids at home, how to make it fun, interesting, engaging. They also had a booth that was showing families how to sign up for library cards, which I think is important, especially as our school year ends and summer begins. And so I thought that was fantastic. So thank you to Dr. Lamari for putting that Cultivating Literacy Night at Kennedy. And that's my report.
Thank you, Board Member Sanchez. Board Member Rodriguez?
I'm still shocked that we still give out library cards.
I have mine.
Well, anyway, back to the subject. I also enjoyed the play at Kennedy, Finding Nemo, and I think after seeing the play, my assignment is to actually watch the movie, which I've never seen. So I will be watching the movie sometime soon, hopefully. That's my assignment. Enjoyed attending once again the board retreat, and I do appreciate the hearing from the other board members that are open and in sharing our differences so that we can come together as a board, which I love. the board retreat was definitely needed. And I would like to thank Superintendent Cruz for helping organize that alongside with our board president. I'd like to thank FMEA. I think the FMEA president is not here right now, but for the end of the year celebration at the location they had. And once again, it was a nice tribute to our teachers. And finally attended the Hellier Ramblewood Unity Festival. And I did get in trouble for handing out 2 pencils per student instead of 1, but the principal forgave me after that, so I enjoyed that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Rodriguez. Board Member Cooper.
Yes, I also was at the board retreat on the 15th, and I was also encouraged for us to communicate together and to sometimes let down our guards, if you will, to see how we can move forward as a board that has the same vision for this district. On the 16th, I was also at the Kennedy spring production of Finding Nemo, and although I have seen the movie, it's been many, many years ago, and I need to go back and refresh my memory. It was so pleasant to see presentation there. And yes, it was, as Vice President Sanchez mentioned, that the numbers keep growing every year. I think this year it was 120, over 120. Last year was 60 or 80. So it's increased every year. So every time we come up to vote for that to continue, we always want to vote for continue that program, because and I think next year there was talk of going to Jungle Book again, so I'm looking forward to next year. But the room was packed, and I went at the 5 o'clock presentation. The room was packed, and so it's so good to see so many parents and community members supporting their children, and the enthusiasm with the children themselves putting on the presentation. On going through my calendar. Looking at my calendar, excuse me. I was able to meet with a teacher on the 22nd. I always like to know what's going on in the school, so I got to find out what's going on in their school and what's going on with the teachers. I like to communicate with all parents and the children, especially. I haven't made a school visit lately in a visiting classroom. I'd like to get back to that next year, winding down, getting ready for the graduations, which I'm looking forward to. I also had a meeting last Friday, and I believe I sent an email to Superintendent Cruz and President Sanchez. I met an organization that could possibly help us with attendance and reach out to the community. I think there's a great organization that already being implemented at Alum Rock and is using them. So I'm looking forward to us having some conversation with them, and also with the Hellier Ramblewood Unity. I went to at 5:30 on that night, and it was awesome because in Hellier, I was looking for all the Ramblewood parents I could find. There weren't as many, but that day they had a trip to Great America, so I know a lot of their parents, a lot of the children were extremely tired, so not many showed up. The principal was there, and I did meet a parent. I spoke specifically with this one parent about the transition for their student. The apprehensions and what's going on behind the scenes of getting their student ready to transfer to Hellier. And I was really pleased to hear that parent and the student that was with the parent said that she's really excited. She's really excited about making the transition. She's has a sad heart about leaving Ramblewood, but she's looking forward to moving forward. So it's encouraging to hear that. I don't speak to as many parents as I like to about the transitioning, but I see it's happening. And although it's hard, it's happening. So it was good to have that conversation with that parent. And that was it for my last 2 weeks.
Thank you, Board Member Cooper. I did a couple of things. I did go to Hellier's Ramblewood Unity Festival. That was very, very nice this past Friday. Good attendance, good food, good entertainment. And thanks to Principal Jacinta for putting that together. He does a great job with all those festivals there, get-togethers. In terms of the board retreat this past week, that was very, very good, very positive. And Manny Barbara does a good job in bringing us together, keeping us going on task, on target. And I think it's something that we do yearly, and especially after elections, when you have a new board member or board members come to the table, it's very, very good to have a retreat of that nature. Take a look at what somebody mentioned, leadership styles that we have, that we all bring to the table. And I think it's very, very positive. So that's something we definitely need to keep on going in future years as the board changes, or not, doesn't change, but we still have to come together and talk about our common interest in running this district. Also attended the Santa Clara County School Boards Association dinner. They have some new officers for this coming year, so there's a change of the guard, you could say, and so it'll be interesting to see what that new group does this coming year with the organization. Also went to the delegate assembly. It's very interesting. Again, a lot of conversation dealt around the budget that was brought forth tonight in terms of all the things going on, not only in California, but very much in Washington, D.C., and the impact that it's going to have for us here. And I was privileged to lead the flag salute at Delegate Assembly because I always ask a veteran, and being a veteran, they asked if I would do it. I said, sure, I'll do it. It was my second time doing it. It was really, really nice. And I just said that at the beginning that I wanted to lead it in commemoration, in memory of all those veterans who had died for this country. So Memorial Day was, of course, this weekend, and our meetings was last week. So I just said that I'd like to do it for this coming week, that we do the flag salute, and it worked out really, really nice. But I got a lot of kudos for doing that, for bringing their memory up at that time. But a lot of reports, lots of reports. If you want to get together with me, I'll be glad to share a lot of the reports that were brought forth in terms of the speakers, because they have a variety of speakers, and each speaker goes ahead and gives a presentation on their respective positions, that they hold and what they deal with. So again, there's a lot going on, and so we need to keep in touch with CSBA in terms of what's happening, and make sure that they continue fighting for us. They definitely fight for us, California, of course, but nationwide. And that's what we're going to need this coming year as we take a look at what's on the horizon for us, Also attended 2 high school award ceremonies, one at Al Salle High School in Salinas. We have a brother who passed away, and so we have do a scholarship in his honor. And so I was asked to say a few words at Al Salle High School, which is my old high school too. So it was kind of nice, and I like the way they do it there. They all dress up in their graduation gowns. Everybody. It looks very, very nice, very professional, and so I really enjoyed that. And then the student that we picked is a student going to Berkeley. Really, really nice student. So he's going to go to Berkeley next year, and I think he's real smart. I think he's going to be very successful. So that was kind of a nice one. And then also went to Orfel High School, and Orfel High School also presented a couple of certificates of recognition there, or a couple of individuals who are one's going to San Francisco State University, and then one was going to be, I believe, up in the Sacramento area, one of the schools up there. Anyway, they both got awards from the GI Forum, and so I was there that evening too, and it was very, very nice, nicely attended. Both ceremonies were very well attended. I think that's my report. All right. Anything else, board members? No? Okay. Let's go on. Let's go on to item 13, future business. Is there any agenda item requests from the board members? 13.01? No, none. Let's go on to 14. Future meeting dates. 1401, June 10th, 2025, 7 p.m. here, a regular board meeting. We're going to meet back here. And then 14.02, June 24th again. The next two meetings will be here. District office, both at 7 p.m. And now we go to 15 closed session. I don't think we have to go back to go to closed session. 16 adjournment. So let's go to number 16. I'll need a motion and second for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
I second.
As we have a motion and second for adjournment. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion passes and we are adjourned at this time.